Joining us now is State Senator from Fairfax, Scott Surovell. Senator Surovell, great to have you with us today.
Hey, John, how's it going? Beautiful day here in Richmond.
Good. I really appreciate you coming on. When you got to Richmond, did you get there last evening? Are you there now?
Yeah, I came here for a bill signing yesterday, and been here getting ready for tomorrow or for today.
Were you at all taken aback by the destruction of the downtown area?
I actually haven't been down there yet. Most of downtown's unboarded. There's a few buildings down here that are still boarded up, but I was going to drive out Monument Avenue when I had a chance, and I really haven't had a chance to do it yet. I've seen the pictures on the paper, but
yeah, it's kind of sad. It's just
in Alexandria, they came in and they took down the statue before any of that happened in Alexandria. Obviously it didn't happen here. But
yeah, well, it's too bad because it's a beautiful, vibrant city, and the destruction that has gone on down there every day has been just horrible, and I hope it stops soon. Scott Surovell, you're in leadership in the state Senate in Virginia. We have this special session today. Can you give us a bird's eye view? Can you give us an update on some of, in leadership in the state Senate, your top priorities in this special session? What do you hope to achieve?
Well, the main thing is we got to get a budget done. Actually, the first thing is it's great. Anytime I get to come here and spend time with Bill Stanley, it's a good few days. But looking forward to seeing him soon. I hear he's on your show in about an hour or so.
8:30. Yep, following you.
Yeah, but the first thing is we got to get our state budget fixed. We drafted a wonderful budget last session. In the last week of session, it all fell apart when COVID hit. We had to pump the brakes and come back for veto session and basically unspend all the new spending we had. Now we have to figure out what we can afford to spend, and we have to cut about $2 billion out of the budget we drafted. And that's sort of the number one priority, is trying to get all that straight. And it's not going to be easy.
How do you find $2 billion? I mean, because you got a $2 billion shortfall, you can't run a deficit. So, I mean, this is like real. This is not like the federal government just sends a secretary of the Treasury out and he prints money. You guys can't do that.
Yeah,
so
no, we can't print cash.
Where do you find $2 billion?
Well, a lot of the money that we had spent was new revenues that were projected to come in and are now no longer projected to come in. So now the amount of new revenues are much, much smaller. And so it's really a question of just cutting stuff that we had planned on spending. And so it's really going to be a question of priorities. And, it's possible we could go back into sort of trying to find monies out of things that were priorities in prior years. But, I'm a couple retirements away from being on the finance committee, so I don't get to play in that sandbox as much as anybody else. But the governor's given a speech this morning about what he's proposing around 9:30, and it'll take us a couple. Say again?
No, so he has a speech around 9 as far as what he's proposing to cut the $2 billion. And you said a lot of the cuts are going to be stuff that was brand new spending based on revenue projections, though those are easy to cut because it hasn't been spent.
Yep.
Yeah, plus you have a rainy day fund.
Yeah, actually, our rainy day fund is the biggest it's ever been. We passed an amendment about 5 years ago that required more money to be set aside for moments like this. So we actually have more money set aside than we've ever had in the history of the rainy day fund. So at least we have that to fall back on. But I'm still worried about where this economy's headed once everything's going on right now really starts to settle in. So I'm sure we're going to budget conservatively. And, like I said, the governor comes out with his speech at 9:30. It'll take us a couple days to process that. My guess is the finance committee will probably meet on Friday to come out with the Senate proposal. The House, I think, is doing their stuff next week. And so the budget is really number one. Number two, criminal justice reform is on the agenda. We have about 10 or 11 caucus bills that we're looking at, and plus there's another 15, 20 other bills that have been filed up by members on both sides that we have to look at. And then there's a small number of bills related to COVID that we have to look at, tweaks and things that didn't be necessary by this pandemic. And so those are the three things we're looking at. But the budget is really the big thing. That's really why we're here. The main reason.
We're with State Senator Scott Surovell, Democrat, Fairfax. Scott, How long do you expect to be there? How long do you expect the special session to actually be in session?
That's a real good question. I can tell you that at least the Senate's hope is to get out of here as soon as possible. We are a part-time legislature.
Right.
A lot of folks aren't planning on being here in August. I've actually got a couple of kids that got to move into college this week. One of my second daughters, she's going to college for the first time, so I'm not missing that. But she's going to JMU.
Good
my alma mater. Yep.
Harrisonburg. Got it. Yep. Nice.
Best school in the world. But she's a lot of us have job responsibilities, other things. So we're hoping to get out of here as soon as possible. The committees start meeting this afternoon. As soon as we get organized, the committee meetings today, tomorrow, Thursday. We hope to start floor votes Thursday, and we might be able to get out of here Friday or Saturday, depending on whether the Republican caucus lets us, because under our Constitution, the bill has to be on the floor for 3 days before it can be voted on, and so that can only be waived by an 80% vote. But if they want to do that, we'll be there probably till. Yeah.
So it sounds like the earliest you guys are going to get out of there is the weekend. If things don't go well, it could spill over into Monday.
Yeah, I mean, we could theoretically get out of here Thursday, but it's probably Friday, Saturday, Monday, something like that. We'll see.
Where are you guys?
And that's just the Senate, by the way. We have to wait for the House bills to come back, and I don't think the House is getting started till next week. So,
where are you guys meeting?
An undisclosed secret location. No, we're back in the Science Museum where we met last time. The big event center out back, and where they spread us all out. And we're actually having our committee meetings out there too, so we don't have to drive back and forth up and down Broad Street to get back to.
All right, that makes sense. All right, couple other issues. Scott Surovell with us, Democratic senator from Fairfax, also in leadership for the Democrats in the Senate. Senator Surovell, the governor's power, the executive power that he's taken, this was meant to be a temporary usurpation of authority, like a hurricane or we're attacked or something, and it's like a 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Like many governors, Northam has just decided that this is a pretty good deal, and he still has these emergency powers in the state of emergency. Are you going to take up when that ends, or does it just go on in perpetuity?
We haven't actually talked about that as a caucus yet. I know my old law partner has some real concerns about it. I've talked to him a few times about it.
Chap Peterson.
And yeah, right, Chap. And I think Steve Newman might have filed a bill, I think, about this. And there might be one other bill out there. We really haven't talked about it as a group, but I'd be really surprised if we get into that, because it's just not. It takes getting into doing open heart surgery on a statute that's significant right in the middle of this. I think would require a lot of time and energy, but also I'm not personally. I just don't think it's something we need to get into this session. It would just take a lot of time. But
so, are you in favor of just giving the governor these unlimited powers in perpetuity?
I'm never in favor. I don't know if it's fair to say it's unlimited power in perpetuity. The courts are always there to check things when there's people that take powers too far. And the courts have now looked at what the governor's done, I think, 12 times, and have said every single time that what he's done so far is within the law. Mm-hmm. So, I don't. When this law was adopted, in I think it was in the 70s. Is that right? I thought I read it somewhere.
But it was not adopted to go on forever. I think the Wisconsin.
There's no question about that, John. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what bothers a lot of people is kind of, we didn't know what was going on with the pandemic, and, we had the lockdown. We had 2 weeks, 3 weeks a month, like everybody got it. No one knew. That's what the emergency powers are there. That's why you pass it in the 70s. But, to me, the legislators should be able to sanction this. It's gone on now March, April, May, June, July, August, just 6 months. Basically, he's going to keep these powers until he's out of office, and then I guess the other person comes in. Do they automatically have them as well?
Yeah, no. Well, of course, a new governor would, but first of all, we haven't had a pandemic since 1918, and the world's changed a lot since then. And if you read the code sections, they clearly contemplate a pandemic. I'm not sure at the time it was adopted, people were thinking about a pandemic that would last this long. I mean,
right.
Everything in my lifetime has been like Ebola or SARS or whatever, where it's
Right.
been like a few months, people were paying attention to something. But so, I don't think there's any question that when this is all over, there'll be some, discussion about looking at things. But I'm not terribly unhappy with how the governor's used these powers, and we're a part-time legislature. What happens? We come in, we do our thing in January, February, then the governor runs the state for the last 10 months of the year. So, he has a lot of power to do things, whether it's adjust the budget or manage things. Well, we're not around. We're not a full-time legislature. So,
all right. So, is it fair for me to say, Senator Surovell, that you're not necessarily troubled or particularly uncomfortable with the governor maintaining these emergency powers for another 6 months? Is that fair?
I guess that's fair, John. I mean, if I had seen something that had made me really unhappy about how he had run things, I might think twice about that. But I think he's done a pretty good job. I think we're lucky to have a doctor as our governor right now in a time like this. And I'm sure we can disagree about it, but I feel like a lot of this pandemic has been sort of politicized, unfairly, and so it's people's political views have sort of taken over on how a lot of people view things being done here. But it's I think there's always room for improvement in statutes. I introduced a lot of bills because I'm always tweaking things, so I'm sure I could think of some stuff to change if you gave me like 5 minutes. So.
John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth across America. We're with State Senator Scott Surovell, senior leadership for the Democrats in the Senate in Virginia. They're convening a special session starting today at noon. The Senate will at the Science Museum downtown. Senator, you're carrying a bill in the Senate. We did a story on it today in the Virginia Star. You're carrying the bill removing qualified immunity for law enforcement officers. And
I'm not carrying that.
Well, you put that forward, right?
No. The House, Jeff Bourne and the House of Delegates did, but we don't have a bill. We don't have a parallel bill for that in the Senate.
Are you in favor of that?
I'm open to looking at it as long as it's extremely limited. We talked about it as a caucus, and it was really a hard thing to figure out in a short period of time. And Delegate Bourne's taken some time to really, I think, drill it down only on law enforcement, which is where I think it belongs. There was some talk about adopting a really broad act that would allow you to sue for any violation of the Constitution of Virginia, which gets really complicated really fast. Mm-hmm. I don't know where my caucus stands on it, and there's a lot of opposition to the qualified immunity piece. There's a lot of local governments that have concerns about it, a lot of law enforcement agencies that do, and so I haven't had a chance to even talk to them about their concerns because it was never part of our package. So it is something that I'm open to. I've always felt like our litigation system is an excellent way to sort of balance out the equities by getting the citizen's voice in the jury in there to say what's right and what's wrong when there's malfunctions in our system, whether it's in a car accident or a product liability situation or somebody's information being shared or whatever. So it's something I'm open to, and I think the qualified immunity system has definitely gone too far in terms of preventing people from being held accountable for abusing their government power. But coming up with the exact words is hard. But if the House sends a bill over, I think we'll look at it. We'll look at it carefully. But I can't tell you whether or not it'll pass.
So essentially, what you're saying is you're open to looking at some. I think you used the word earlier, tweaks, rather than eliminate. I mean, the Jeff Bourne bill. The state delegate, Jeff Bourne, Democrat from Richmond, the legislation that he's carrying in the House, it's pretty severe. It basically strips police of qualified immunity. Doesn't sound like you're on the surface in favor of that without looking at it in its entirety. Is that accurate?
No, legally, first of all, legally, it's not getting rid of qualified immunity. It's sort of creating an end run right around it.
Right.
It's just a practical matter. It ends it. But no, listen, John, I'm open to looking at that as it pertains to law enforcement. But when you create a brand new cause of action out of whole cloth that we've never had before, you have to be real careful in terms of how you do it to make sure you don't have some unintended consequences. So that's a big one. and it's a big change. And I applaud Jeff for trying to take it on. But I can't. Again, we have not really talked about it in depth, and it's going to require a lot of conversation. So I'm not ruling it out, but I'm not saying, oh yeah, it's definitely going to pass either. There's a reason why it wasn't in our package. It was a very difficult thing to figure out with all the competing interests and all the possible unintended consequences that can come with it.
Scott Surovell with us. You just said that obviously the number one priority you've got here is getting a budget that works, that is in balance with the shortfall we have. You have to come out by law. You have to come out with something because we can't run a deficit. If there was one other top priority or two that you have, if it's Sunday and you're leaving and you're driving back to Fairfax, what would be the one or two things besides getting the budget in place that you would want to say you accomplished here?
In terms of the criminal justice system, I think we have a real historic opportunity to get some things done. And I don't know about the House, but at least in the Senate, I think there's a bipartisan appetite to make some big changes, especially when it comes to decertification and the hiring and termination process for officers, to make sure that if there is a bad officer, that we can get that person out of the system and make sure they don't get rehired somewhere else. And I think there's bipartisan interest in that. There's also bipartisan interest in some of the criminal justice reforms that we're proposing in the Senate in terms of fixing the actual system, giving prosecutors more flexibility to work out their plea deals or drop cases if they feel like a case needs to be dropped. There's bipartisan interest in expanding expungement, and also in eliminating the right for juries to participate in sentencing. We're one of the only states in the country that does that, and it really chills people's right to trial by jury. And in the state that led the world in putting juries between the government and the people, I think that could be a real accomplishment if we could get that done this session.
Look, I'm in favor of that. That's the one thing you guys are doing that I'm totally in favor of. I think juries should be involved in that. I mean, that's what our justice system is based on. It's a jury system. Why they should be involved?
Not involved.
Yeah, not involved.
Not involved in sentencing is what we're going for.
Yeah, not involved in sentencing. I mean, the country's based on a judicial system of guilty or not guilty, right? But the reason we have judges is then to determine what the sentence should be.
Right.
I mean, that's. I mean, I'm agreeing with you 100%. That's how the system is set up. I think to turn sentencing over to the jury, I don't think that makes sense, and I don't think that was ever the vision of those that put Virginia's government in place, the founding fathers. That's why we have a judge and jury system, and I think the judge has to look at everything, and they have to give discretion over it. I mean, if I'm a jury and I've already said the person is guilty and they're not acquitted, I don't want that same jury to then be sentencing the person, because I don't think that's the fair arbiter of it. Is that not right?
They typically don't get full information. They don't have as much experience. They don't see these cases day in and day out like judges are. So they don't see the sentencing guidelines and know what a normal sentence is. And also, judges don't really like to go the way we can have time for it in the radio right now, but the system doesn't work right now, and it really chills people's rights to trial by jury instead of enhancing it, which is what we should be doing. People should, if they want to have a jury trial, they should be able to go get one without fear of it turning out horribly, horribly worse because the system is set up all wrong.
I'm totally in favor of that, and I wish you the best with it. Scott, final question. Your colleague, Senator Louise Lucas, she got a federal warrant yesterday. What's going to happen here? Do you have any idea?
Portsmouth politics is really screwed up. And, Louise has been outspoken in her criticism of that police department. And, she asked the Department of Justice to look at some of their practices. And last week she introduced a bill that would give the Attorney General the authority to look at their policing practices and enter a consent decree against any police department in the state. But the one she's really concerned about is her own.